Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining our congestion management process meeting. Hope you can all see the presentation. We'll go through and do some introductions and see who's here. So if you would just note your organization. So I'm Eileen Singleton with Baltimore Metropolitan Council. Todd?
Lang with BMC.
Thank you. Ed?
Ed Stoltz with BMC.
Thanks, Ed. Kwaku?
Kwaku with City of Annapolis.
Thank you. Albert?
Albert from MTA.
Thank you. Keith?
Keith Kachar from BMC.
Thanks. Angelica?
Angelica from Baltimore County, DPW&T.
Thanks. Anna?
Good morning, Anna Marshall from BMC.
Thank you. Brett?
Brett Thorne with Baltimore City DOT.
Thank you. Sorry if there's noise in the background. I actually have a child putting the dishes away, so I'm going to just, it should be done soon. Brian?
Brian Ulrich, Anne Arundel County.
And Brian Ryder. Hey, Brian.
Brian Ryder, BMC.
Thank you. Brooks?
Brooks Phelps, MDP.
Thank you. Carl?
Carl Chamberlain, Maryland Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Charles?
Council.
You were quick. Charles with BMC. Yeah, I think I saw Dan Janicek sneak in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dan Janicek, Maryland Department of Transportation.
Thanks, Dan. Connor?
Connor Jett, Howard County.
Thank you. Claire?
Claire Stewart, Carroll County.
Thank you. Aaron?
Hello, Aaron Kuhn, State Highway District 4.
Thanks. Ian?
Ian Thomas, engineering undergrad at Ferris.
Great, thanks for joining. Jasmine?
Jasmine Champion, FHWA Maryland Planning.
Thank you. Miriam?
Mariam Sultan, BMC.
Thank you. Rahman?
Rahman, BMC.
Okay. Monica?
Good morning, Monica Haynes Benketta from BMC. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator.
Thank you. Let's see, Sam?
Sam Kale, Harford County, Public Works.
Thank you. Steve?
Good morning, Steve Cahoon with Queen Anne's County Department of Public Works.
Victor?
Victor Henry, BMC.
Thank you. Let's see, did Zach? You?
No, Zach Kaufman, also with BMC.
Thank you. Someone's in the waiting room. I'll let him join. Let's see. Ryan, I see you just joined. We're just finishing up introductions. If you want to just say your organization. Ryan is with RTA. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining, and we will get started with our meeting. Hope you can all see the shared screen. The agenda for today, we have a couple presentations, and we'll have some updates on our online CMP tool, and also get some have some discussion on priority letter status. So as I do for each meeting, this is just a timeline of the CTP process and where we are with the CMP meeting. So we're kind of at the second meeting in the timeline, trying to check in with where you are on the priority letters and identify strategies or coordination as needed. So I am going to turn over the presentation to Brian to talk about some of the work that he's been doing with Teralytics data. Brian, just let me know when you need me to change the slides.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. We have a product called Teralytics that uses LBS data to do traffic volumes and origin destination analysis. Next slide. Okay. Add a little bit about BMC, which we know, so you can go through this one and the next one, and there we are. And so we wanted to take a look at the harbor crossings using traffic data to understand the traffic patterns. As I said, we used Teralytics, their location-based service data, cell phones, and fleet vehicles. The data that's available is from 2019 and 2022. We used 2022 for this analysis that I'm going to show today. We defined a study area. That's an important thing when you're dealing with so much data to define a study area. The study area was block groups, and we matched BMC's study area zip codes that we've been using for reporting data about the Key Bridge. We defined the critical routes. I selected a segment of each harbor crossing to get just the traffic for those going to and from the block groups. We used BMC GIS to export shape files out of Teralytics and into ArcGIS so we could map the road volumes and the origin destinations by block group. Next slide, please. And here's a screenshot of the tool. It's called Teralytics Studio. You can define, here is defining the origin and destinations, the origins in orange for the AM and the destinations in the purple. And I defined did a select link for each harbor crossing, just selected a segment so we could get all the cell phones and all the fleet vehicles that go through that location. Next slide, please. And a little bit more about Teralytics. This is a sampled movement. So it's the cell phones and the fleet vehicles that represent a sample of travel, and they use traffic counts to up that to the total population sample, and a whole bunch of data processing in their black box. So next slide, please. So here's the map. Here's two maps I was able to come up with. This is the morning peak, or the morning AM period, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for 2022, heading southbound. I picked the southbound links of each harbor crossing. And we have the origin zones on the right and the destination zones on the left in red. And as you can see, the bulk of the traffic uses the Key Bridge. in this, 3,700 in the AM period. So, and you can see a good bit uses the Harbor Tunnel too, and then a lot less on the Fort McHenry Tunnel. As for origin destinations by block group, we have 1,800 origins from the East Point block group. You have to look on the map, but it's basically like the area around East Point Mall. And their destination is 2,600 around the Fairfield Curtis Bay area. Next slide, please. So here's the PM. So I selected the northbound links on each harbor crossing, and we had the origins on the left and the destinations on the right. And again, the bulk of the traffic uses the Key Bridge, 3,300. And oh, I should have put PM. There's a little typo there, but this is the PM northbound, and then a good bit on the Harbor Tunnel, and then a lot less on the Fort McHenry Tunnel. And for the origins, again, it looks like the Fairfield Curtis Bay area with 2,900 origins, and again, 1,300 destinations in the East Point block group. Okay, next slide, please. So in a nutshell, just using Teralytics, we went in with some assumptions and were able to find Key Bridge traffic out of their data set, out of this massive data set. So we're very happy with that. And by bringing it into ArcGIS, we were able to make some easy to use maps. And this just gives us a preliminary understanding of Key Bridge travelers' origins and destinations. And, further applications, further questions, we can go over here right now. There's any other ideas for use of this data set? That's
And so like you said, the Teralytics data, we have access to 2019 and 2022, and they're still working on 2023, putting that together. So that the data, it's an annual data set that comes out.
It's an annual data set, and it the 2023 will be available this summer.
Okay. And is this so do we pay for the Teralytics? Does BMC pay, or is it?
I believe we do.
Okay.
Yeah. To answer that, yes, we've purchased certain data sets from Teralytics. So we can certainly do some additional analysis if requested, and so we have it within our library.
Okay. So if anyone has any other suggestions for, how to studies that you're interested in us, Brian, I guess more specifically working on or looking at, speak up now or anytime.
Yeah, we can certainly, think about it and get back to us. Yeah, great.
How does the cost compare to, say, Streetlight or something?
Yeah, this was a one-time data purchase. I can say, with the limited information we had, I believe the dollar amount was close to $50,000 for each year that we purchased. So, but it is static information. Streetlight does give some updated based upon their subscription model. But we can certainly, talk about some of the different data sources if you guys are interested.
I was just curious. but that's good information. Thank you.
I think streetlight is more expensive. I think streetlight is pretty expensive. It's more, maybe more granular, but I think it's a lot more expensive.
They are expensive.
Okay. Well, if anyone has any questions about the Teralytics anytime, get in touch with Brian. And if you have ideas on any studies, certainly cross-jurisdictional type things would be, good to look at. This is just one tool that we have that we can help you with. Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, and so next up is Ed, and talking about some before-after analyses that he's been working on. So Ed, take it away.
Thanks, Eileen. Good morning. So come to talk to you today a little bit. Our office has been buzzing for an unfortunate reason with the Francis Scott Key bridge collapse, and obviously people want to find out a lot about the data and the effects of that event. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. And also from the last meeting, there were some questions. A question that came up about current traffic conditions pre and post COVID. So I've got a little bit to share with you about that. Next slide, please, Eileen. So we'll start off with the Key Bridge collapse and how we've used vehicle probe data to do some analyses on that event. And the data, well, we can go to the next slide. So quickly, this is the volumes going through the tunnels and the harbor crossings that we've covered, I'm sure, in the past. We can go to the next slide. So here's what we decided to do. So the event date was a Tuesday, March 26th. So what I intended to do was a before after with a baseline. So I wanted to look at sort of the same time period from 2023. So we're like weekdays through March and April 30th. And then the analysis after is from the event date to April 30th. Now, I'm also going to be doing monthly updates to the conditions on the routes that we've looked at. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So what we're looking for here to identify things were the hotspot areas. So we were looking at anything that was below 75% free flow speed, the congestion percentage, or 25% worse conditions than before the bridge collapsed. Next slide. So this is a little example of what I did within the RITIS PDA suite with congestion percentage. So the left column is the conditions in 2023 in March and April, speeds, well, congestion percentage, percent of free flow. The middle is the conditions after. And on the right-hand column, we're able to separate out. I was able to say from what has gotten 25% worse since the collapse. So we can identify the actual segments, which you see in the right-hand column. And this was for the AM peak. Next slide. So we did the same thing for the PM peak. And what I think is interesting, you can see in the right-hand column that there's no vehicle probe data going across the bridge. So that's just interesting to see how that picks that up. So, so we looked at the AM and the PM peak. Next slide. And so you can see on these, and I have a little tighter AM and PM rush hour peak, because that's the traditional what we've done with BMC, throughout the years with using vehicle probe data. It's just a click for me to go to 6 to 10 and then change things around if I want to. It's not that much of a difference. Next slide, please. So this is the entire list from going through, observing the entire region. We're focused, of course, near the bridge, the harbor crossings. So you can see that it's amazing that the travel times have increased, in some cases, almost 3 times what it was before the incident. So I highlighted the major offenders, and it's really incredible what we're seeing. Next slide, please. So what I want to do is just run through, just for example, what we've done. So this was the harbor tunnel crossing, well, up to the tunnel. And you can see from in the 2023, the congestion percentage, well, it was already, tight there, but you can see just from the color scheme with how drastic the change is. Next slide, please. And this is obviously the worst one with the 192% increase. And trying to move this thing out of the way so I can read the rest of it. So yeah, 5.89 minutes to 17.2. That's unbelievable for a 4.3 miles. Next slide, please. So another example, this was the approach coming northbound to the Fort McHenry tunnel. And as you can see, the original backups in the PM would start around 395. Well, now we're seeing massive delay starting well before the Beltway. Next slide. So we have a 119% increase in travel time. And what I wanted to bring up here is that only doing this from pre and through April 30th as our data sets, we can do this. We get the vehicle probe data 24/7, 365. So I put this out just before the entirety of May was available, and I've only briefly looked at things. I took a look at Eastern Avenue, at the congestion near 95 and 895, and without giving everything away, because I haven't looked at all the routes, I think you're going to see a leveling off of the initial increase, but that'll be something for the next meeting. But that's what I'm thinking we're going to see. Next slide, please. So we had a question at the last meeting. It was asking about conditions since COVID. Have things reached the pre-pandemic levels? It was a little the most readily available data that I could find was vehicle miles traveled. So that's what I compiled a few things for you to take a look at today. Next slide. So the US DOT says that this is we have finally topped pre-COVID-19 levels for the first time with a 2.1% increase in travel on US roads. So next slide. So I took a look, I went and see what MDOT had available. So here you can see the VMT per capita and the drops, the obvious drops at 2020 and how things have gradually approached normal. And we have the annual person hours of delay showing the same thing. Now this was preliminary data. And on the next slide, we have what's a little bit more recent. And so we can see in the left graph that we are within 3.7% of pre-pandemic conditions, which is pretty close. So if there's data out there saying that we're back to pre-pandemic conditions, I'm certainly not going to argue that. And I also added on the right-hand column, there was freight data available, and we're still only within 10.9% of pre-pandemic. I'm not really afraid. Maybe somebody more versed in freight could explain this graph. I thought it was interesting that the VMT shows a spike in 2021 and then drops in 2022, and it's kind of leveled off. And if anybody out there would have any thoughts of why that occurred, that's not something that's within my expertise necessarily. And I think that, next slide, I think that's it. But if anybody has any questions on what we've been doing here, this all started, obviously, a lot of questions came in when the bridge came down, and it's because we have the RIDIS data and it's 24/7, 365. We were able to mobilize and take a look at things very, very quickly. So this has been a lot of work, and we're certainly not done. So if there's any questions.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, if folks have questions about what Ed has done, or again have requests for additional investigations.
Yeah, definitely, because I cut things off at 25% worse, and a county or the city or whoever may be concerned about something that may in the overall regional scheme not look that huge, but to that jurisdiction it might be more important. So feel free to contact me if you're interested in any data.
Anyone have any other thoughts on this? Okay. Thanks a lot, Ed. Appreciate all the work, even on your day off, which is even more impressive.
My staycation.
Okay. So the next thing we have is updates on the CMP resources, and there's been a lot of data added to the CMP tool. Victor, did you want to talk about that?
Sure. So yeah, thanks, Eileen. The CMP team has been working really closely with our crack GIS staff here. Aaron and Amanda have been really great about updating the CMP tool and developing the CMP tool in general. We've done all this work in-house, and the CMP team has generated updates for all of the 2023 data layers that we have in the CMP tool. And this is all data that's generated from the RIDIS suite, similar to the data that Ed just presented on. So we've got all kinds of new data layers for you guys to play with. And in addition to just the metrics that you see there, we've added a regional bicycle facilities layer. And that's something we talked about in previous CMP meetings that we thought might be beneficial. So all of these resources are available in the CMP tool now. So feel free to check them out and give us any ideas on how we may improve the tool moving forward.
Thanks, Victor. I was thinking, since I think we might have some time, I can pull that up and show the tool. Rotate things around. Stop sharing. Share. Okay, so here's the current version of the CMP tool, and what we've started doing is having the current layers show up at the top. So we're trying to make it a little easier to navigate. So as Victor said, we have a lot of the 2023 data that we have now as up at the top. And we have the priority letter projects, the transit, MTA regional transit plan, TIP projects. So hopefully this continues to be a useful tool, and that you can use it in developing your priority letter as well as any other types of projects. And if you have ideas for other additions that would be helpful, please let us know. Any thoughts or comments on this?
Hey, Eileen, I actually do have some ideas that I'd like to talk with you and Victor about, and I'll just say it briefly. Some of those layers that I just showed with congestion percentage as a layer, that might be good in addition to us having the AM and PM speeds, because you'll actually that'll pop the congestion even more. So it would be not taking those layers away, but maybe that additional layers in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So if okay. So again, here are the updates, and I think in the initial agenda I sent out, I may have had the old link for the CMP tool. So the quick link is this one that's in the handout. The one that you see when you use the tool will also work, but this is easier to remember if you're looking for it. So, and if if you end up with a wrong link inadvertently that I sent out, you can always go to our webpage under well, it's under, if you need it, let me know. I can't find it quickly. Okay. Okay, so moving on, we have time for discussion about priority letters and how they're going. I guess they're due pretty soon. I sent out the regional text again for this year, and interested to know how that's going. If you've been able to put that in, if using the online tool or any of our regional tools has been helpful. I looked online this morning. I didn't see any of the 2024 priority letters posted yet, so I don't know if they've been submitted. But I'll just open it up for discussion. Dan?
Yeah, I can tell you that we have received numerous priority letters and developed letter responses. I've developed about 10 myself. We have several in our region, but not all of them are in yet. But we got our approved response about 2 weeks ago, and so they'll be posted online, I think, as soon as the response is generated through our secretary's office.
Okay, thanks. Any of the jurisdictions have any comments about how it's been to prepare the letter? If the regional text has continued to help? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, with Queen Anne's County, we're going to continue to add the language we have the last couple of years. It's in our language. The draft letter going to the county commissioners. We haven't submitted our letter to MDOT yet, but that language, similar to what we've done the last 2 years, will be in there. We think it's helpful, as far as the different efforts going on, just showing that we're looking, beyond our boundaries at the issues going on, and congestion corridors, the bridge effort, the Bay Crossing study. We think it's helpful to add in there that we're looking beyond our borders and working with people beyond our borders. So I think that message gets carried on out, and I think it did get carried out through Tory last year. And then on the other side of that, looking forward to the message from MDOT this year of how much money is going to be available and what to expect. We're doing a priority letter, although we're not hopeful or not, understand money's tight and, projects are on hold. So, we'll see where it all goes.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm glad it's been helpful. And, I think it's helpful to have, for the regional text, to add a regional component to the priority letters, and also elevate some of the non-capacity projects. I think it's helpful for the local jurisdictions to show support for the the TSMO corridors and for transit and for bike ped. And so I think it's helpful for the locals to elevate those up through to MDOT as another voice for supporting those kinds of projects. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, well, and I guess this could be the last year of this process. There's work being done at the state level on how the CTP and the projects get selected. So we'll stay informed on any changes, and see if there are changes, how we might adapt to them to continue the work that we've done. So that was all I had. But a question, since we have some time, if anyone has any thoughts to share about what you're doing related to, congestion monitoring, if you have questions for the group, if you have ideas for future presentations, we have a few minutes now. If anyone wants to just chat about anything that might be of interest.
I think you brought up a good point with the future of priority letters. I know the priority letters are outlined in law and what we're supposed to do, but I think there's a disconnect between the funding available and the expectations of writing a priority letter and what we can expect to see in the form of projects. And if there's an effort, as you mentioned, coming up about trying to align maybe the right way to say it, expectations with what we're doing with the priority letter. And historically, we've always put large improvements in our priority letters, multi-million-dollar improvements, but a lot of times they get pushed year after year after year, and it takes many, many years. And, seeing where funding's going, we're in competition with, all the jurisdictions are in competition with each other for major projects. And there's very few major transportation projects that can occur just because of the cost. And costs right now are escalating, exponentially, which is even going to make it harder in the future. So, I think it would be helpful for everybody to bring expectations in line with requests in the priority process, and make it more effective than kind of everybody calls it a wish list. It is a wish list, and then but we never get there. So if there is an effort to work on that in the next couple of years, we're interested in being a part of that.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's interesting, because I've been reading all the jurisdiction in priority letters for our region, and each jurisdiction kind of has a different take on it, different format, different take. Some, like you, focus on the bigger projects, some focus on smaller projects, and so there is no, everyone has to do a priority letter, but there's no guidelines on the details and how it's put together. So I don't know what'll be coming, but we can see what we can do to help if there are changes. And I don't know, maybe this is a question for Dan. Is there, or Todd, if you're following the process, I mean, is there some way to provide input, that maybe isn't being, I don't know how, what input
I
is
don't
being
know. Eileen, I haven't been briefed, and I think it's kind of a general concept people are looking at, either within MDOT, and maybe at the legislature too. I haven't been in those conversations. I think there'll be some conversation, I'm sure, at the Mako conference this summer, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's the tour itself. So, we'll quickly be getting into setting up those tour dates, and then having the pre-tour meetings and the tour meetings with the secretary, meeting with each county. And so I think there's a lot of discussions that have to occur before there's any concept developed about changing the current status quo. And so, but I'll certainly give any updates as I can. And I'm sure a lot more of us will become more involved in, discussions. I think right now it's just a discussion. It's just a discussion item.
Well, I guess even if things don't change, if there's discussions about, a more coordinated approach to just developing the priority letter. I don't know. Todd, you.
Yeah, I remember last year we actually had Secretary Wiedefeld come and present at one of the joint BMC BRTB meetings that was during the tour season. So it's kind of it was a good time to kind of bring that regional perspective into the CTP tour process. So obviously, as Dan mentioned, conversations going on over at MDOT. It was a focus also of the Train Commission, which is being reformed based upon new legislation. So we're trying to keep track of that, and it's our understanding, that reformation of that committee should happen here fairly soon. We're not exactly sure what that looks like, how it all goes, and what their formal agenda is going to look like. But I think the earlier conversations have really started to look at the CTP priority letter process, the tour process, and to try to see how we could make it a little bit more transparent and people can understand better exactly how to frame their requests into the process and how they're going to be judged through, either a scoring system or some other mechanism. So hopefully some news will come out soon, and we'll start getting into the conversations, because as Dan said, we're only a couple of months away from the release of a new draft CTP, which no one knows exactly what it's going to look like, with some of the funding discussions and things like that. So it's what's that old curse? Do you live in interesting times? So at least we have an opportunity, and we're trying to stay involved in the conversation. So we'll let you know as soon as we hear stuff.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, well, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, but we'll keep an eye on it. And if there's any, certainly if anyone has ideas to pass through, you can send anything to me. I can share with Todd or talk to Dan, and we'll see how we can progress.
Well, I was going to follow up, just say it does seem to be an effort to follow up on the governor's agenda. And so that might drive some of this, what types of projects, are good for the state and that type of thing. So obviously discussions are going to happen at the high level, maybe get down to us, get up in the high level again, but I don't know, what the process will be for that. That may be a series of new meetings, new discussions, or working around new commissions like the new Train Commission, as Todd mentioned. So yeah, just a lot unknown, but I think it generally will probably focus on driving the governor's current agenda. So yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks. Any other thoughts about that or anything else? Okay. Well, the next meeting is November 5th, and I did send out the handout right before our meeting, so you have that, but I'll also include that in the minutes when I send out the minutes. And I guess that's all I had. So thanks everyone for joining, and see you in November.
Great. Thank you very much.